A good film leaves the audience thinking by the end of it.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. We have a special guest star today, the director, the producer with the mostest, Andrew Heilman.
Guy who figures out how to automate all of our post schedules for reels and weekly podcasts to audio platforms and YouTube. Andrew Heilman, the producer of the Jeff Heilman Project. Welcome, yes. Andrew.
And also responsible for the
raising
graphics
4 little
and the
kids.
Thumbnails and branding and everything.
Helps with raising the 3 kids littler than he is. Great to have you on camera this time.
Absolutely.
Making good on his promise.
Yes.
To the audience.
And just had a birthday, so happy 18th birthday, Andrew. What are you working on right now?
Working on building a new computer for work so that I can edit better products. I'm gonna get a new job soon, a new role in the job I already work for. I already work for Jubilee Bridge, Morgan Hill, and I'm gonna do more editing work for them with my new computer once I get it built. Because right now I'm editing on something that is not very powerful.
That's awesome.
Which has lasted for a couple years, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's lasted about a year and 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah. So. I think it's pretty cool that, I mean, as we grow and technology grows, like it's a continuous growth. It's a growth curve growing up and to the right, but like your technology certainly is going to change over periods of time, and the needs are going to change too. So
as it should. You don't want to get in a period where nothing develops.
Speaking of which, did you get a chance to watch the? I haven't seen them in so long. What is it, Macworld? Like when they announce products? When was that? That would have been.
I don't know where Apple announces.
It's usually second or third week of September, I think.
I think they do it. I think they announce it now in Apple Park, but they used to do it in Macworld, San Francisco.
Yeah. And it's closed. It used to be open. People could get into it, but now it's on campus.
It's
a bougie member thing.
Yeah.
Well, how did you, I mean, clearly you're 18, you've been spending, I've been thinking about it, like you've been volunteering in the media department since you were, 15? I think you were 15 when you started volunteering.
In the media department, 2021. So that was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
So like 15, 16.
So with Derek, which was awesome. Hey, Derek, shout out to Derek and Victoria,
and
the little
little
baby.
Yep.
How did you, when did you find out, or when do you remember finding out that you were interested? Because a lot of people, they're interested in homeschooling and different styles of teaching, non-traditional teachings, and you have seemed to gravitate towards media directing. And when did you feel that was something that you wanted to pursue, or what was it? Was it a movie that you watched? Was it just a interesting or a book you read, or?
No, I mean, I was raised homeschooled. For all of you people out there who don't know, all the Heilman children were homeschooled, except for Jeffrey for a little bit.
1 year.
1 year Jeffrey was in public school. With that being said, having 2 basically full-time working parents growing up, there was little to no educational curriculum or system that we used. It was mostly life lessons and movies and stories in general and books. That was my education basically, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because I get to see a bunch of human experience and see how the different responses that you elicit in other people by the things that you say and the things that you do. And it was negative in the fact that it was a very sheltered way of learning new information. I built a reliance on stuff like that, and I try to be as neutral as I can in the things that I do and the things that I learn from. And I don't want to basically learn, all of my education from one medium, being television. But I got into working in the space with the church. Started as a projectionist assistant which is for those of you who don't know, when you go to church and there's a worship session, they'll have the lyrics on a projector so that people can sing along and express their belief through worship, and express their love through words. And I was able to help project the slides and the different lyrics, and the scriptures whenever pastors would be having a sermon. That was my first job. That was my first job.
Okay.
That I started, and it was a volunteer job. So I think I was probably 15, maybe 15 and a half. And then I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore because it was really stressful because you had to be in the moment all the time and you were called up the most. I think that's probably the most stressful job on the media team for any church is the person controlling the projection. So I wanted to have a less stressful job, so I went into the camera department as a camera operator. That was really fun, and I still enjoy being a camera operator. I've gotten really good at it, to where I can tell, when I take a Sunday off and I look at the recording, I'm able to tell all the errors that the other camera operators made. And then I started becoming their editor when I started producing and editing this show, which has been a great learning experience. I'm able to, I'm editing on a program that I know basically everything about now, and I'm going to get a new editing program that's, I think, 3 or 4 times better on my new computer. So I'll be able to do a bunch more things. And with that new computer and new editing program, I'm going to be able to do a bunch of new things for my church too. So that'll be fun.
Do you have a favorite director or like when we've talked about it in the past, you've said like the role that you would be most interested in, I believe, is director. Like you wouldn't want to do screenplays or write or produce necessarily, but if you could do anything, you would want to be a director. Is that?
Yeah, a director of some area of the production, a director of photography, a director of the whole operation, director of, marketing, just someone who has more say in what goes on. Because as much as I like being a drone and being told what to do all the time, it's nice to have a little bit of freedom and a little bit of creative expression.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite director right now?
I love John Ford. I think is his name.
Yeah.
Who he did a lot of old movies. I think he did Stagecoach. That's an old Western movie. It's very good. He did How Green Was My Valley. That was one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I also like, obviously, there's the Steven Spielbergs and the Francis Ford Coppolas who, have made great movies. Martin Scorsese's great. Steven Soderbergh. Just a lot of really good guys that I don't necessarily think one is better than the other, but having a varied interest in certain directors and certain genres, I try not to only watch and digest things from one genre of story.
Yeah, you're really good about that. I always quote, well, I try to paraphrase. I can't say I could quote verbatim, but the fact that you say that, like, you might not enjoy watching every single movie, but you should pay respect to every single movie and every single genre because people are working really hard to produce that thing and make that thing come. So just have a respect. You might not want to watch it a second time, but have respect for all types of movies.
If all art is subjective and there's no such thing as, one piece of art being better than another piece of art, why not have an outlook on it that it's all good? Why do you have to have an outlook on it if it's all bad or some of it's bad if that's not an accurate way?
Like some people might look at a Picasso and compare it to a Da Vinci and say, like, you're not going to say Picasso's bad. You're just going to say they're different and that, they're notable.
Yeah,
so
it's just a negative and incorrect way to look at it, in my opinion.
Correct. I love it. I love the way that you look at that, and that we can all appreciate all the various different genres. Just because I don't necessarily want to watch horror movies doesn't, I shouldn't have the impression that horror movies are necessarily bad.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with horror stories in general because on one part, obviously, the Bible says to stay away from evil things and things that are not holy.
Mm-hmm.
But then I look at the hundreds of thousands of directors and people in film in general who've gotten their start through low-budget horror movies, and I can see that clearly good came out of that, and they're able to feed their families and progress their career and do other things.
Who could you cite as an example of somebody who got their start in a low budget? There's got to be some examples out there.
Well, there's John Carpenter, obviously, is the big one who made Halloween on I think a $200,000 budget and made like $70 million off of it.
That's amazing.
Not him, in general, but the company that made it.
Yeah.
Box office gross was, I think, $70 million. Toby Hooper, I think he made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that had like $100,000 budget and made $30 or $40 million. So
wow.
And all of the actors and all of the cast and crew that were part of those projects, they all benefited heavily off of it. And good can come out of things that have negative aspects of them. And I just think horror stories in general are interesting because you can make the villain as evil as you possibly can. And horror movies with no justice at the end are not very rewarding, and I don't really like those movies. But a lot of Stephen King's work is very well written and very well detailed. It is an example of a 1,200 page book story about this horrific, horrible monster that gets defeated at the end. And it's just very good. And stories like that, they get a lot of bad rap for being demented at times, but a lot of those build up to a good story in the end.
And some of the best writing in literature is produced by Stephen King. I mean, he's written, I don't even know how many dozens and dozens and dozens of books.
He's written like 2 books a year for 50 years.
Yeah. So
some of them hundreds of pages long.
Horror scares me. I don't really like it as a genre, and I try to stay away from it, but I can't ignore its impact. And I remember a time when I was in New Orleans, summer of 2023, and I went to a museum, and there was a particular genre of art that I was not a big fan of, but I forced myself to look at it anyway, critically.
But yeah, the decision to, to sit through a story, or to put yourself into the position to where you can appreciate stories of all types and all manners, because some people have something to say, and being able to use the media of film, creating content. Where do you see, I mean, you're young, you're 18, it's 2024, you're going to be around a long time, Lord willing. Where do you see the future of film, with everybody going to content creation, with, we went through a season where everything was really short. Like movies were only like 90 minutes, and that was like the long. And then we've gone through a season where movies are 3 hours, and now we have this whole triptych, where there's stories that are like 3 movies to tell one story, which in essence is like a 6-hour block of. So where do you see movies, film, media kind of trending towards in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think short content on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook have done a lot of good, but also a lot of bad when it comes to attention spans for young adults and children. I don't see the 3.5 hour long movie
Gone with the Wind,
being super successful in the next 5 or 6 years. There are always going to be a few, but I feel like we're going to find a return to form of the hour and a half.
Do you think that we're going to find a return to original content, or are we still going to do this nostalgia wave of
sequels,
redoing everything?
You're going to be the worst movie producer in history if you never make a sequel, like the least successful.
Yeah.
Sequels and reboots and prequels, they've been made, for movies since its beginning, but since stories since their beginning. Some sequels can be really smart in that the best advantage in making a sequel is that you don't need to set up the characters.
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of setup that goes on when you're creating an original property, and that can be really slow and, confusing for a lot of people. If you try to ramp up the speed to make it faster, it can be confusing to keep track of all the characters. So sequels have great advantages in that. Reboots are a great way to, if you shot a movie in the 50s and it's low quality and it's poorly acted, but it's got a great script, then you can redo it. There were a lot of those in the 90s, like with Parent Trap, or early 2000s with like Freaky Friday. They redid a lot of those classic Disney movies from the 60s and 70s, in my opinion, pretty well, even though they had flaws themselves. Stuff like that is always great to see. The stuff you don't like to see is the Fast and Furious 11, 12.
Oh my gosh.
Avengers 5, Avengers 6,
Yeah.
Avatar 5, Avatar 6. Like, that's sometimes a good story has to have an end, because at that point it's not a story worth retelling to other people or rewatching, because it just takes too much time and too much effort, in my opinion. Like, Lord of the Rings is a great example of a series that is almost perfect, but takes a lot of effort to sit down and watch and digest it all. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that, and a lot of people, in my opinion, are not.
Do you think a good film
They lose a lot of that.
leaves the audience wanting more, or just completely satisfied?
A good film leaves their audience satisfied in whatever. A good film leaves the audience thinking by the end of it. Thinking in a positive way of it, being satisfied. If I go to see a movie and at the end of it I'm thinking I'm satisfied, then that's good. If I go to a movie and it doesn't have a satisfying ending, thinking about, what does that mean as a piece of property? A good example is La La Land. By most traditional standards, doesn't have a satisfying ending.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, it keeps me thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the movie. A good movie is not a movie that you brush off and never think about ever again. A good movie leaves a lasting impression on you. And
Well,
I find La La Land is a good movie because it keeps me thinking about it and keeps me thinking about what it means and what the message of it is. A lot of people just don't care about that side of storytelling, the analyzing it. But I like to analyze stories and see how I can, because I'm a storyteller myself. And I always try to analyze stories to see if there's a way I can apply what I learn and what I do.
Well, I once heard it. I once read it said, the best preachers know when to end their sermon. Because it's one of those things that, especially if you're a storyteller or a preacher, the tendency is to just want to keep going and just drone on and on and on and on and on. And the best in the world know when to end, and that helps me edit. It helps me when I'm putting together something. It's done. This is it. That's it. That's the last word. That's done.
Where do you feel the line is drawn as far as films that shape culture or films that reflect modern culture? Do you feel like they're both? Culture is shaped by film, or do you feel like it's more a reflection?
Well, the best thing about film and movies is that it is by far the easiest art form to consume. It's the easiest to understand, the easiest to convey, easiest to spread a message. When you create a painting, like a Picasso, when he tries to paint something, of course it's beautiful, but whatever message he's trying to tell needs to be explained. You need to have a little plaque next to the painting that says this is what this painting represents. There's no, you can explain everything visually in a movie with different angles and different perspectives. A book is hard to, a lot of people hate reading because it takes effort. It takes real effort to digest words and to decipher their meaning and to analyze what they mean. Same thing for ballets and operas and plays, is that it's all one perspective, so it's hard to see where other people are coming from sometimes. But movies, movies and television are very easy for people to digest. That being said, they have tremendous influence on culture because of how easily they could be digested. You don't need to have a 4-year degree to watch, Avatar and learn something from it. It's having a medium where anybody can understand it is very good, and it's what a lot of people strive to do who a lot of people that are trying to tell a message. They're always trying to find what's the best way to convey that message, either through social media, through film and television, through books, through press conferences, whatever they're trying to.
Well, look at what The Godfather did for the Italians coming out of the 70s and the 80s, and even, I mean, romanticize. I mean, the fact that we as a people can look at the mafia in any kind of romantic light, let alone have, you know, a conscious awareness of Italian Americans, was a huge result of the movie and the popularity of the movie. Are there any other movies that you can think of, or maybe Jeff too, that like have changed or influenced people, humanity, as much as like what The Godfather did for Italian Americans in?
I mean, that's arguably one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, because of the cultural and social impact, I would think, of what it has done.
Yeah. And just the significance, the artistry of it. And it's really, you know, it's a story about a family, right?
Yeah.
It has mafia tones to it, and certainly some less than G-rated aspects to the movie. But ultimately, it's a movie about America and about family. The way it was told and the way that the cinematography comes together with the story writing, I mean, it was exceptionally well done. I think Sound of Music changed people.
Yeah.
I think, you know, to have a full-length feature film that's 3 hours long talking about escaping in World War II across the border, I mean, that tends to be up
And the
at the
fact
top.
that it became something that like gets played every Christmas,
Yeah.
every year. Same with It's a Wonderful Life,
Yeah.
since the Capra did that in the 40s.
Oh.
40s. It was black and white still.
I think it was 1940.
Yeah.
4, maybe 45. I think it was
Yeah.
I
after
think it
World
was
War II.
after World War
Yeah.
II, just
Yeah.
barely.
Maybe 47.
Yeah, but then again, another one that is for the books, as far as like the repetitive nature, being able to have it be part of a cultural understanding each year, each Christmas. You know, It's a Wonderful Life getting played.
So if you think about film and your career in behind the camera,
And you're more than just film. You play the piano. You help us with kids. You play No, you're not playing Fortnite. What are you playing?
I play unhealthy amount of video games, but I don't really play Fortnite anymore.
Okay.
word games too.
Word games too.
Where do you see your career in film developing?
I'd like to say that I have a plan, or 5-year prediction of where I'll be, or a 10-year prediction. I found that that's very dejecting in my experience. Whenever I've tried to make a plan and it goes south, it's always been not great, versus trying to be more in the flow and trying to help other people and just be ready to receive whatever life throws at you. I do have a rough semblance of where I'd like to be. Obviously, I'm going to get a new position at work. Branching out is very risky and doesn't always have a good success percentage, but building up what you already have, like right now I'm just trying to build up my editing career and build up my relationship with my church and with this show, instead of doing 5 other shows and doing something more risky that probably has a better payout overall, but something that's obviously going to be more stressful and is going to add years to my take away years from my life. I'd rather just sit back and relax and get better at what I'm already doing. And if an opportunity comes my way and I can do it, and it's something I know I can do and I'm confident in doing, then I'll take it. But I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm good at until then.
I think both ways of looking at that work. You can make plans and work at them and recognize that they don't always materialize the way that you want them to. And you can go with the flow. You can take opportunities when they come and not feel like you have to be under the gun to hit certain deadlines if that's not something you want to do.
Because the thing is, a lot of people say that they never get anywhere, and that nothing ever... The reason they never get anywhere is because they never take opportunities. Whether you're the entrepreneur who has 50 different jobs, or you're the
guilty as charged
government employee who's been working for the government for 30 years, both people have sometimes an equal amount of opportunity to do something. And most people don't take opportunities. Most people say, "Oh, I'm stuck. I'm never going to get anywhere." But most normal people are given opportunities, sometimes handed to them, that they're too afraid to take. And the way I see it, as long as I'm willing to take new opportunities, then I don't need to try to be an entrepreneur. And
Well, you're extremely disciplined. We've talked about it before on the podcast. Your ability to have a calendar, stick to the calendar, have routine, have schedule, work out, play piano. I mean, it would appear that you have a very broad,
Very regimented routine.
very
You're
very
good at it.
broad. You just like you like all the multiple genres in film. You have multiple interests, including even playing video games. And so I'm just really, Dad and I are really proud of you. We're really blessed that we've been able to have the last 18 years and have you with us, and have you continue to encourage us in being accountable, being responsible, being disciplined, and all of these things. So it's just been really cool. It's been really cool to see you growing and thriving and finding your groove on the record, so to speak, of life. And we're just really happy to have you here with us. The show would not be on the air without you.
That is a fact, and I'll second that comment, because I don't think people who are listening, we have a video aspect to this podcast, and it is easy to consume. You push a button, put in your headphones, and away you go. And it takes about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 a week for us to actually provide the 20-minute or 30-minute cut down version of what you see. But the cutting down takes, have you figured out, is it 4 hours? Is it 8 hours per episode? What do you think it actually takes to get it down to, let's say you have an hour podcast and you cut it down to 45 or 50 minutes?
well, from source material to finished product, I edit it in 2 phases. I edit an audio portion, and then I edit the video portion, because how it works, everybody who doesn't know, is that we have an audio version of each episode that gets posted 3 days earlier on all of the audio-only platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And then 3 days later, on Tuesday, we post a video and audio version of it on YouTube. And I edit how it works is that I get 3 camera footage files, and I get 1 audio file once we're done filming. And then I go to my editing software and I put all the source material in it and sync all everything. And I basically ignore the video portion of it and work exclusively on the cutting and the polishing of the audio portion of it. And then I export the audio, and then I post the audio on, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and stuff. And then the next day I go back and edit the video portion of it all in one program, so that I'm not having to re-edit everything. So I edit all the audio, make all the cuts, and then I make sure that all the video is seamless and works. And then I post that to YouTube on Tuesdays. Although overall, I think it probably takes me 2.5 hours to edit it probably takes me 3 hours to edit the audio portion of it, because a lot of it is taking out background noise.
Do you switch mics?
I toggle between. How it works is that if I talk, I'll give you an example right now. Right now, the noise cancellation on those 2 microphones are off, and you can hear an echo because my voice is being picked up in all 3 microphones. And now the noise cancellator is on, and now you can only hear it from 1 microphone. And I have to do a lot of that work. So a lot of it is taking out background noises, making sure that peaks and plosives aren't too loud. I got to take out a lot of dead silences.
People's eardrums.
Yeah, I take out a lot of dead silence. Sometimes rarely, but sometimes I'll take out clips that are dragging too long, or people that are talking about stuff that doesn't go anywhere. I'm trying to make it more concise. But so the audio editing probably takes me 3 hours, because with audio, I also cut the video. Basically, how it works is that I'll have like an hour-long video, and then I have to cut the audio, and sometimes I'll cut like a few seconds off the video, and if I go back and make the video at its original length, the audio will be shorter than the video, so I need to edit I need to cut both the audio and the video at the same time so that they're always synchronized. So this is really complicated. I don't know if anybody's interested in this. Or
So
if
3 hours for the audio. How long?
It probably takes an hour for the video. A lot of the video is just polishing. I've already made all the cuts because I have to cut the audio with the video. But yeah, a lot of the video is just polishing. That probably takes an hour, and then shorts probably take me 2 hours.
The other day we were watching.
So it's like 6 hours a week of.
The other day we were
show.
watching a really notable YouTube channel, and they had four guests plus a director, and I mean, the sound guy did not do a very good job because we were in that, like when a certain person was talking, we had to turn the volume up on our end. So if you're watching, you guys, if you watch anything and there's multiple people talking and you do not have to turn it up and turn it down and
Somebody's
turn it up
working
and turn
to
it
make
down.
that possible.
Somebody did a really good job. You can clap and you can thank the sound editor for that because it is so apparent when that person when the sound has, it's like you had one job, and that's make sure everybody's tone and everybody's mics are the same.
The number one job of an audio engineer or audio mixer is to make sure what you're listening to sounds good, and there are a few ways to make things sound good. Objectively to make someone's voice sound good, you take out background noise. You make sure that they're called plosives. Their harsh P's and R sounds of their voice aren't too overwhelming.
Who has more of those in their voice, your mother or me?
Mom talks louder and with harsher sounds, mainly because she's a woman and
Higher pitch.
she has a higher pitched voice naturally. You tend to talk a little bit quiet sometimes, which is that's easier to manage because you just raise the volume to a comfortable level.
Interesting.
In post. I'm probably more neutral. I'm going to have to do a lot of work for my voice, but whatever. But yeah, number one job of an audio person is make things sound good, and there are objective ways to make it sound better. If one of those ways is making sure everyone's talking at the same. Sometimes people will talk louder than other people in a room, and you have to make sure that they're all talking at a consistent level so that people don't have to change their audio knobs too much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Andrew. I know it's been about it's been over 30 minutes. You've spent time with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being on
We're
camera.
so glad. Thank you
You're
for
not
coming
usually
on the
on camera.
camera.
It's
Now
great.
we've had, who have we had? We've had Jeffrey,
Joseph Maddow,
Madeline, Andrew,
and
Teddy,
and Nessie. Not
I
yet.
think
I don't
not
think we had
yet,
Nessie yet.
but
Okay. And so Nessie and
definitely we've had some. We have a few more kids to go through, but
Yeah. Sorry, everybody, if I was nervous or quiet or incoherent.
I think you did great.
I'm not good at this.
I think you
normally.
did great.
You did great.
You answered questions,
I think
you
that
spoke
people
freely, and-
they want to see how what does it look
I mean,
like?
we're real people.
So,
At the end
yeah,
of the day,
exactly.
we're not trying to be something that we're not. We're not. We're just normal people who are trying to do a podcast about the humanities and how the humanities can be a blessing in the tech epicenter of the universe here in Silicon Valley. And Andrew is a very good technical engineer
Absolutely.
for
So
sound
to
and
record
video
for
in bringing
posterity
that
for
podcast to you.
yourself moving forward in years and coming back and watching this, say you watch it in 30 years, right? And Kurt, what's your go-to playlist like on music? Like what music are you finding yourself listening to most right now?
There's a specific Spotify made playlist that has like 700 like jazz, like I think it's called like jazz in the background, and it's a lot of like just normal like 3-piece jazz bands, nothing crazy and techno
Not
about
progressive
it.
jazz.
No, it's just all very simple jazz
Okay.
stuff. So that's what I'm listening to right
Spotify,
now.
jazz in the background. What's your current movie? Your current favorite movie? or one that you would watch over and again?
I have so many favorite movies. My favorite movie right now is probably Lawrence of Arabia. I should watch that again.
Okay. Lawrence of Arabia. And what about book? So music, movie, book.
My favorite book right now is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Yeah, that's my favorite book.
And then do you have a favorite YouTube account?
A favorite YouTube? Oh,
Yeah.
Markiplier.
Markiplier, okay.
I watch way too much Markiplier.
And then what about video game or PC game, like actual play game? That's your favorite?
There are certain games that are like my favorite to play, and some of my favorite stories. The ones that I'm playing the most right now, there's a game called Risk Global Domination.
Okay.
That's a video game version of the board game Risk. And there's another program called Tabletop Simulator, which is basically a sandbox board game, video game where you can create your own board games. And there's a bunch of different versions of board games that are real board games that you can play. Like there's Clue and Uno and Monopoly and stuff. A lot of my favorite video games are single player story games. But I can't really play those right now because I don't have a video game system that does it right. Right now, I'm gaming on a Mac Mini, so they're not the best to play video games on. But eventually, when I get my new computer, I'll be able to, on my days off, play some better video games.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I wanted to make sure that in 20 years from now,
Happy
you can look back and you can
birthday.
see a bit of your favorites right now at 18, and perhaps they stay the same. Maybe they evolve and change. But thank you, Andrew, for coming on to the Jeff Heilman Project
It would
and
not be
being
the
a part
same
of our project.
without
A
you,
huge
my boy.
part. It would not be the same. And
Thank you
happy
very much.
birthday.
Happy 18th
Thank
birthday.
you.
Officially
Yes.
old enough to vote in the
Yes,
upcoming election.
exciting.
That's exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're
See you
welcome.
next time.
See you next time on the Jeff Heilman Project. Bye.